Today's daf is Menachos daf Nun Aleph, and we are 9 lines from the bottom of daf Nuna Mid Beis Itmar Chavite Kohen Gadol. Today's daf is being learned as a schus refuah shalema for Baruch Yitzchak ben Shifra Miral, Rachel bas Henya, Moshe David ben Gittel Rach, and Chaya Esther bas Rachel Libo. So we're moving along in Perikat Cheles, dealing with the Kachim half of Perikat Cheles. Specifically, we're learning halachis related to the Minchas Chavit. So one of the subcategories of the Karban Mincha was the Minchas Chavitin, which was brought every single day in the Beis HaMikdash by the Kohen Gadol. The Minchas Chavitin was unique in that it was one mincha, but it was brought in two parts: machtzisa ba'boiker umachtzisa ba'erev. So half of the Minchas Chavitin was brought in the morning, the other half was brought in the evening. Today's daf is going to continue to discuss different halachas related to the Minchas Chavitin. Zok the post, Gemara. Itmar Chavite Kohen Gadol Ketzad Oisen. How exactly was the Minchas Chavitin of the Kohen Gadol prepared? Now, why is this a question? Every mincha you have to know how it was prepared, but you don't have a limud in Shas that talks about each one of the minchas and exactly how they were prepared. It's because if you take a look at the pasuk describes the Minchas Chavitin as a minchas machvas, which means that it was fried in the machvas pan. Additionally, the Torah refers to the minchas chavitin as tufine, which means that it was baked. In other words, the minchas chavitin on the one hand was fried, on the other hand it was baked. Hence, the question is, which happened first? Was it fried first and then it was baked, or was it baked first and then it was fried? It says the Gemara was a machlokes. Reb Chia bar Abba Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Reb Chia bar Abba said the name Rabbi Yochanan. Oifa v'achar kach mitagna. First, they would bake it, and then afterwards they would do this tigun in the machvas. Rabasi Amar Reb Chanina. Rabasi said in the name of Reb Chanina, mitagna v'achar kach oifa. That it was done just the opposite. First, they would do the tigun, and afterwards they would bake it. So it's a machlokes which one came first. According to Reb Chia bar Abba, in the name of his great Rebbe, Rabbi Yochanan, oifa v'achar kach mitagna. According to Ravasi, quoting Reb Chanina, mitagna v'achar kach oifa. Says the Gemara, Reb Chia bar Abba. Reb Chia bar Abba said, Kavasi didi mistabra. I think it's mistabra like me, and the reason is because the pasuk says tufine. It says that the Minchas Chavitin had to be baked. But it uses the rather unusual word of tufine. It doesn't just say afia. It adds the nun yud at the end. And you know what that's coming to say? Teofena na. What it's saying is that at the time that it's baked, it should be na. It should be nice. It should look shein. Now, in the event that you're going to go and you're going to be metagen it first and afterwards you're going to bake it, the tigun is going to make the mincha look a little dirty. It's going to make it look messy, so that when you bake it, it's not going to be something nice that you're baking. Must be oifa v'achar kach metagna. Said Reb Chia bar Abba, I think the word tufine is mashma like me. Ravasi said, you know what? I think the same word tufine, the same exact yek that you're making, is actually a raya to me. Kavasi didi mistabra, because I think tufine means teofena na. It means that at the time that you bake it, it should have been a little cooked already. If you're going to bake it first and then be metagenetz, at the time you bake it, it's completely raw. If, however, it's metagna v'achar kach oifa, so at the time of teyofa, it was already not. It was already partially cooked. Thus, I think it's a raya to me, this lashon of tufine, that it's mitagna v'achar kach oifa. So we have a machlokes, Reb Chia bar Abba Amar Rabbi Yochanan and Ravasi Amar Reb Chanina, whether oifa v'achar kach mitagna v'achar kach oifa. Again, everybody agrees mitagna because it's called a minchas machvas, al machvas b'Hashem and teyasa, the pasuk says. Everyone agrees oifa because it says tufine minchas pitin. The question is, which came first? Was it first oifa v'achar kach mitabda? That's what Reb Chia bar Abba said. Or was it first mitagna v'achar kach oifa? That's what Ravasi Amar Reb Chanina said. And the Gemara said that both of these shitas seem to be rooted in a diuk in the pasuk, because when the pasuk describes the fact that he's supposed to bake it, it says tufine. Reb Chia bar Abba said tufine is miloshin teofena na, So the nay is miloshin na, nice, which would imply you can't be metagen before you bake, because then it's not going to be nice. Whereas Rav Asi said it's not miloshin na as in nice, it's miloshin na as in half cooked. By the way, what's the makar to not being half cooked? The Torah says that you're not allowed to eat the carbon pesach, no, half cooked. So if it had to be half cooked at the time of the afiyah, must be first mitagna v'achakach. It says the Gemara Ketanoi that this machlokes Amayram, Reb Chia, Reb Abba, Reb Yochanan, Reb Asi, Reb Chani is really machlokes Tanam. Tufine teofeno no. What it means is teofeno no miloshin a little bit mavushal. Rabbi says teofeno no, that it means no. At the time that you bake it, it should be nice. These are literally these two sheetas. Rabbi Yossi, however, in this price it says a third shot. He says teofeno rabba, that when they used to bake the minchas chavitin, they would bake it rabba multiple times. They would bake it twice. What's the pshat? Says the Gemara, islay na ve'islay na'a. He holds of both pshatim. He holds that tefune means that it's supposed to be na, somewhat cooked, which means first you have to be metagen it, but it also means na, which means first you have to bake it. So which one is it? Oh, the Torah says you must bake it twice. So the first baking is going to be na, the second baking is going to be na. So he holds like both pshatim into fine. Also we learned to the Mishnah over there, and there means later in Masechtes Menachos, Chavite Kohen Gadol, as it relates to the Minchas Chavite, and the Kohen Gadol used to bring every day in the Beis Hamikdash lishasan, the kneading, the arichasan, and the preparing, the afiyasan, and the baking, b'fnim had to be done inside the azara. Number one. Number two, v'doiches es haShabbos. Additionally, the avodah of the minchas chavitin was doiches Shabbos. Says the Gemara, Mino hanimili. How do we know? Now we said a few things. We said lishasan, arichasan, v'afiyasan, b'fnim, and we said it's doiches Shabbos. But as will be mavur in the Gemara, the Mino hanimili is referring to the fact that the minchas chavitin was doiches Shabbos. How do you know that it's doiches Shabbos? So again, preparing the minchas chavitin involves lamates malachis. You're being metagen it, you're being oifit, and the question is, how do you know it's doiches Shabbos? Says the Gemara, Amar Rav Huna said. It says in the Torah, tufine. This is the magic word, and we learn from there, teofena na, that after you bake the minchas chavitin, it has to look very nice. Now, if you're going to tell me that you baked it the day before, meaning the minchas chavitin that was brought on Shabbos was baked before Shabbos, because the minchas chavitin's avodah itself is not doiches Shabbos. Well, if that's the case, then in Nashvila, it's going to come out that by the time you're bringing it, right, by the time you're being makrivid, it's already going to be a day old, which means it's going to be a little bit fashimelt. It's going to be a little bit spoiled. So from the fact that the Torah says te'afenana, which means that it has to be nice after it was baked. When does it have to be nice? At the time that you're being makrivid, it must be the day after it's already nice, which wouldn't be possible if you're going to bake it day one and you're going to go ahead and be makrivid on the other day. In other words, must be that you're going to bake it on the same day that you makriv it, being that there was a hakrava of the minchas chavitin that was done on Shabbos, must be that it was baked on Shabbos as well. Maska for Rabbi Yosef asked the kasha, I don't know if that's right. I'll tell you the afiyah of the minchas chavitin wasn't doiches Shabbos. Are you going to tell me if that's the case? How's it going to be tufine? How's it going to be teofenana? The answer is you're going to preserve it. You'll kavish labiyarka. This is the proverbial refrigerate it, but you're going to figure out a way to preserve it, to keep it fresh for the following day. So just because te'afena na doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be doiches Shabbos. Either way, this is the first makar. How you know that the afiyah of the minchas chavitin was doiches Shabbos? It says tufine, and what does tufine mean? Te'afena na. At the time of the asiyah, it has to be na. Which, by the way, this is the third pshat that we've had in tufine. The first pshat was that at the time that you're baking it, it should be na, meaning it has to be nice. B'haschalas afiyah, teofena na. At the time that you're baking it, it should have been partially cooked already. You should have been metagen it. Teofena na, that after the afiyah, at the time that you're being makriv it should be enough. But either way, this is the first part. Second shot. Rabbi Shmuel Tana, the yeshiva Rabbi Shmuel, they had a brayso that had a different makar. It says al machvas bashem teyasa. Teyasa means vafilu b'Shabbos, teyasa vafilu b'tumah. The word teyasa is extra, and it comes to teach me that afilu b'Shabbos, afilu b'tumah, the minchas chavitin is doiches Shabbos. Abaye Amakra, the pasuk says soiles mincha tamid. The Torah calls it tamid harei k'minchas tmidim, and it's coming to compare it to the carbon tamid. And the carbon tamid was brought on Shabbos. This is also brought on Shabbos. If you look carefully at the Lashon Gemara, the Gemara's Lashon is we compare it to the Minchas Tmidim. So what was the Minchas Tmidim? So the Minchas Tmidim was the carbon mincha that was brought together with the carbon tamid, which we know, of course, was the Minchas Nesachin. So together with the carbon tamid, there was a mincha that was brought. It was known as the Minchas Nesachin. Either way, it's Minchas Tmidim. It's treated like the Minchas Nesachin. Rava said a fourth makar. Al machavas bashemen teyase, and we learn from there malamed shetuuna kli. We learn from there that it requires a keli. Al machvas was a kli, right? So we know that minchas chavitim had to be put in a kli. Now, if you're going to tell me that it was baked already from the day before, if saladolina, it's going to come out. It's possibly meaning from al machvas we learned that it had to be baked in a klisharis, and once it's baked in a klisharis, if it's left overnight, it's going to be nifsal belina, right? Once something is niskadish bekli, you can't leave it overnight. That's what we know as Psolino 101. So it's for that reason, from the fact that we know that it had to be baked inside a kli, Zoysemeris, this is a raya that it must have been baked on the same day that it was brought, must be that it could not have been done the day before. So the bottom line is, we said that the Minchas Chavitim, specifically the Afiyah, was Doiche Shabbos. How do we know it? So if you take the tally, we have 4 Makaris. Rafuna said it's learned from the word tufine, teofenona, has to be nice. At the time they'd be makravit, if it's a day old, it's not going to be so nice anymore. Then Rabbi Shmuel said it's learned from teyase, afilu b'Shabbos. Abaya said that we refer to it as a minchas tamid. It's like the minchas nesachim that was brought with the carbon tamid, which we know was doicha Shabbos. Rava said, al machvas, it was baked in a klisharis. If you're going to bake it the day before, then it's going to be nifsa belina, in which case it's going to be a problem. So from the 4 pshatim, says the Gemara, Tanya kavase de Rava. We have a brisa that supports Rava. Now, this brisa that the Gemara is going to bring now supports Rava is going to digress and take us really all the way onto Amud Beis. So we'll see that this brisa is one of those brises. It's a long brisa which has a little bit of an obvious question on it, which is going to force the Gemara to do a deep dive analysis of it, which is going to result in 3 different pshatim in the Ameiram, how to understand this brisa. So this is a fun brisa. Really, we're bringing this brisa for Tanya Kavasi de Rava, which we're going to be able to prove from the very, very first line. So again, the first line is the Tanya Kavasi. We'll read the first line, speak out the Tanya Kavase, and then we're going to dive right into the rest of the brisa and really the rest of the daf. So the Gemara Tanya Kavase de Rava, a brisa that supports Rava. Al machavas melamed shetuuna kli. Al machvas malamed shetuna kli. That was what Rava said. Rava said al machvas malamed shetuna kli, and he said if it's tuna kli, that means you can't bake it today and be makriv it tomorrow, because by definition it's going to be nifsabli. But either way, it's that very first line that's Tanya Kavase de Rava. Bashemen. This is the hemshach of the brisa. It says the word bashemen al machvas bashemen teyase lahisav lashemen. From there we learn that you have to add additional shemen to whatever shemen you would have thought that there was going to be. So the minchas chavitim was a minchas machvas, right? We said that it was prepared in the machvas, like a regular minchas machvas. Additionally, it was baked, tufini. But it was a regular minchas machvas. Every minchas machvas required shemen, right? A minchas machvas, like all menachos, or like almost all menachos, required shemen. So from the fact that the Torah says that al machvas bashem and teyase, Chazal understood that mention of bashemen is extra. And the reason it's extra is because it's pashut that it requires shemen. If every minchas machvas requires shemen, and this is a minchas machvas, so why would you think this is any different? Why would you think this would not require shemen? So the brisa says that for sure, the word bashemen is extra, and it must be, it's coming to teach me then in addition to the obvious amount of shemen that you need because of the fact that it's a minchas machvas, but really it needs even more shemen than that. There's a ribuy of shemen that the Torah is telling me you need by telling me bashemen. Because again, teach me that you need shemen, I know without the word bashemen. Must be bashemen's coming to teach me that not only shemen, but even more shemen than you would have thought. Lahisav la shemen, says the brisa of any day of kama, but just from the fact that the Torah says lahisav la shemen, I don't know how much shemen you need in addition to the regular shemen that a minchas machvas needs. Says the brisa, I already done so. In logic, I would think the following: Never kan shemen. It says over here the word shemen. Never lahalabim minchas nesachim shemen. It says regarding the minchas nesachim, that's the mincha that was brought with the carbon tamid. The word shemen, malalon shloishes lugan liisaron. Just like over there, for the Isaron of Silas, there was 3 lugin of Shemen. Afkan, so to hear Shleishes lugin Isaron, I would think that the amount of Shemen that you need is 3 lugin. Meaning, Bashemen's coming to teach me an extra amount of Shemen. How much extra? I don't really know. From the fact that it says the word Bashemen here, and it says the word Shemen by the Menachos Nesachin, so it makes sense. It should be like the Menachos Nesachin. The Menachos Nesachin required 3 lugin. So I'm going to assume that here too, the amount I'm going to need is 3 lugin. Now, a regular Minchas Machvas required only 1 lug. So what emerges then is if you're learning from the Minchas Nesachim that it's 3 lugin, so that's your limud that I know from the word Bashemen, stelling to Shemen to the Minchas Nesachim, that in contrast to a regular Minchas Machvas that requires only 1 lug of Shemen, over here I'm going to need 3 lugin of Shemen. But the Brisa says, learn Shemen from the Minchas Nesachin, maybe take a different route. Maybe learn Shemen from the Minchas Nedava. Never can Shemen, it says the word Shemen over here, but never, Minchas Nedava, Shemen, it says over there, Shemen, just like if there it's only a lug, Afkan lug echad. So how do I know to learn Shemen to be marba? 3 lugin, maybe I should learn that just like by the Minchas Nedava, all it is 1 lug. So maybe here too, also all it's going to be is 1 lug. Says the Brisa Nira L'Midaima. So being that I have a little bit of a face-off, because on the one hand, I could learn Shemen from the Minchas Nesachin. On the other hand, I could learn Shemen from the Minchas Nedava. So what I'm forced to do is, I'm forced to ask myself logically and in Svara, is this Minchas Chavita more similar to the Minchas Nesachin? Hence I'll learn from the Minchas Nesachin. Or is it more similar to the Minchas Nedava? And therefore I should learn from the Minchas Nedava. Says the Brisa, Donin, do we say that we're going to learn Taf Beis Shin Tes, Tavshat, mi Taf Beis Shin Tes. So what is Tavshat? So it's an acronym. It's Rosh Tefes. Tader. Number 1, the Minchas Chavitin is Tader. Number 2, the Beis, it's Bachaifa. It's something that Kohen Gadol was obligated to bring every day. The Shin is from Shabbos, it's Doicha Shabbos, and the Tes is Tumah, it's Doicha Tumah. So the Minchas Chavitin was Tader, it was every day, it was a Chayva, it was Doicha Shabbos, and it was Doicha Tumah. That's like the Minchas Nesachim, which was brought with the Karban Tamah, which means it was brought every day. It was a Chayva because the Karban Tamah was a Chayva, and the Karban Tamah was Doicha Shabbos, and it was Doicha Tumah. But they ain't done in Tavshat. I'm not going to learn the Minchas Chavitim that has these 4 qualities, Misha'init Tavshat, from the Minchas Nedava, which is not Tader, right? It wasn't brought every day. It's not a chayv, it's a nidava by definition, and it's not teicha Shabbos, and it's not teicha Tumah. So maybe you should go in another direction. Done in Yagel, mi Yagel. So the right gear says without the Yud. Yagel, mi Yagel. So what does Yagel stand for? The Minchas Chavitin is a carbon Yachid, Kohen Gadol's carbon. It's Gimel, it's Biglal Atzma. It doesn't come together with a carbon, it's a standalone Mincha, and the Lamed is Levaina. It comes together with Levaina, which is also the case for the Minchas Nedava. Minchas Nedava is a carbon Yachid. It comes on its own. It's just a Mincha. It doesn't come together with a Zevach. Additionally, it had Lavaina. But the Ein Danim Yagel, you can't learn the Minchas Chavita, which has Yagel, Misha Eina Yagel, from the Minchas Nesachim, which is not a carbon Yachid, it's a carbon Sibur, it's part of the carbon Tamid. It's not Klal Atzma, it came together with the Tamid. Additionally, it did not have any Lavaina. So, in Svara, I could hear that Bashemen is telling me that it should have the Din Shemen of the Minchas Nesachim, but I could also hear that it's coming to tell me that it has the Din Nesach, Din Shemen of the Minchas Nedava. And even if you're going to try to compare, I can very easily compare the Minchas Chavitim to the Minchas Nesachim because they have Taf Beis Shin Tes in common. I can also very equally compare it to the Minchas Nedava because they have Yud, Gimel, and Lamed in common. It's for that reason I'm a little bit stuck. Says the Brisa, so Rabbi Shmuel ben Yeshua chimed in, and he said, it says regarding the Minchas Chavitim Soilas Mincha Tamid, and we learn from there that it's like the Minchas Tamid. It says the word Tamid, so Tamid is Tamid. Minchas Tamidim Shloish Zugel Yisarim, just like the Minchas Tamidim had 3 lugan to the Yisarim, Avzu Shloish Zugel Yisarim, so to this Mincha is going to have 3 lugan to the Yisar as well. So Shmuel ben Yeshua said, I can hear you can learn it this way, learn it that way. But you know what? I don't think you have 2 choices because at the end of the day, the Torah calls it Tamid, and if the Torah calls it Tamid, I know exactly what the limit is. Reb Shimon says another mahalach. Riba kan shemen. The Torah was marbe shemen by the minchas chavitin, by telling me the word bashem. Riba minchas kvasim shemen. And the Torah was marbe by the minchas kvasim. The minchas kvasim is the minchas nesachim, also shemen, because a regular mincha requires only one log, and over here the Torah said 3 logins. Okay, so if that's the case, ma'alahan shloishes logan lisarin. Afkan shloishes logan lisarin. No, Reb Shimon says that bashemen is a riboy. It's coming to be marba. So it's mashma that I'm supposed to learn it from another parsha that has a riboy. The normal amount is a log, but what is a parsha that has a riboy? A parsha that has a riboy is the minchas Nesachim, hence I'm going to learn it from the Minchas Nesachim, and the Minchas Nesachim is Shloishes Lugin. Here it's going to be Shloishes Lugin. There's what Reb Shimon said. The truth is, there's another parsha where you find the Torah was marba. Riba kan, the Torah was marba over here by the Minchas Chavitin Shemen, by saying the word Bashem of Riba, but Minchas Parim ve'elam Shemen, and by the Minchas Nesachim that came together with Parim and Elam. So if somebody brought a carbon oila, and the carbon oila involved Parim and Elam, so there too there was more Shemen that was brought. Ma'alahalan, just like over there was Shnei Lugin Li Sarain, so in the event there was a par or an ayil. So instead of a loik per isarin, there were actually 2 lugin per isarin. We'll see, it was more than 1 isarin for the par and the ayil. But the point for now is it was 2 lugin per isarin. Afkan shnei lugin li isarin. So maybe over here it's also going to be shnugin li isarin. I think that the Minchas Chavitin had 1 isarin, so it's not going to be shloishes lugin, it's going to be 2 lugin. Now, as Reb Shimon said, we're not learning it from Minchas Nadava. We're learning it from a place where you find a riboy of shemen. But even within the world of riboy of shemen, I have 2 drachim that I can go. I can learn it from the regular Minchas Nesachim, that's a keves, which is shloishes lugin, or I can learn it from the Minchas Nesachim, where it's a par v'ayil, where it's shnei lugin. Said Rav Shimon nir lami daima. Who's it more similar to? Danin mincha haba isarin, mincha haba isarin. We're going to learn the Minchas Chavita for the Minchas Tamidim, which each had 1 isarin. Vein danin minchas haba isarin, mincha haba shnayim v'shloishes rayim. As opposed to, we're not going to learn the Minchas Chavitin from the par and the ayil, because they involve 2 Isroinos and 3 Isroinos. The ayil had 2, the par had 3, and being that they had more Isroinos, it's a little bit different than the Minchas Chavitin. It's for that reason I'm not going to learn it from there. Ad kan de Braisa. So this is a Braisa, there's a lot going on, and the Gemara now is going to delve in. But again, let's just high level chaza what's going on in this Braisa. The Braisa started off with a diak. The Minchas Chavitin is referred to as a Minchas Machvas, right? Torah says that you were supposed to prepare it al Machvas. And then the Torah says, Bashemen. Now every Minchas Machvas involves Shemen. So the question is, why does the Torah have to tell me Bashemen? Says the Braisa, L'hoisaf La Shemen. It's coming to be Moisef Shemen. It's coming to tell me that in addition to the regular amount of Shemen that you would need because of the fact that it's a Minchas Machvas, there's an additional amount of Shemen. And then the Braisa went on to describe how much additional shemen. So again, the easy part of the Braisa is that Bashemen tells me more shemen than a Minchas Machvas. The hard part of the Braisa is when it starts cheshbening, how much shemen do you actually need? Now, if you break down the Braisa, it sounds like the Braisa is then divided into 3 parts. The first part, which is mentioned anonymously, I guess you would say it's the Tanakama, Rabbi Shmuel ben Noishal, Rabbi Yochanan ben Broika, and then Reb Shimon. The initial part of the Braisa set it up a little bit, right? It said that if I'm going to learn from Bashemen more Shemen, and I don't really know how to go about it, so Nir Lami Daima. On the one hand, I think I can learn it from the Minchas Nesachim, which had 3 lugin for the Isarim, which would mean then that the Minchas Chavitim would involve 3 lugin, or maybe I can learn from the Minchas Adava that only 1 lug per Isarim, in which case all it's going to have is 1 lug. And the way the initial part of the Braisa left off was, I'm stuck, I don't really know. Enters Rabbi Shmuel ben Noishal, Rabbi Yochanan ben Broika. He said it says Soilas Mincha Tamid. Oh, it's like the Tamid. And the Tamid, that's the Minchas Nesachim, had 3 lugin, so this is going to have 3 lugin as well. Reb Shimon came and he revisited the 2 ways you can go about it. He said that I think if you're going to compare it to something, you can compare it either to the Minchas Nesachim that was bought Kfasim, or the Minchas Nesachim that was bought Parim Ve'elan. Both of those Minchas Nesachim have more than your regular like, but the Minchas Nesachim that's bought Kfasim has 3 lugin per Isarain of Silas, and the one that's brought Parim Ve'elan has 2 lugin per Isaron of Saila. So to me, the two choices would not be the Minchas Nesachin and Minchas Adavar. I don't hit the tzad Minchas Adavar. It would be for sure Minchas Nesachin. But is it Minchas Nesachin from the Kvasim, or is it Minchas Nesachin from the Parim and the Eir? And then Reb Shimon was actually Machriya. He said, to me, it makes more sense to learn it from the Kvasim, and the reason is because the Kvasim involved one Isaron, just like the Minchas Chavitin, in contrast to the Parim and the Eilim, which involved 3 and 2 Isroinos respectively. Either way, Zok the Gemara, Hagufa Kasha. I don't understand exactly how to read this brisa. The brisa began, Amrit Bashem Lahosav Lashem. Right? This was like the given part of the brisa. That Bashemin is Lahosav Lashem. Hadatani, and then immediately after, before we mention Rabbi Shmuel ben Oisha, Rabbi Yechim ben Broika, before we mention Rabbi Shimon, the first part of the brisa went and said, Nemar kan Shemen, v'nemar b'minchas nedava Shemen. It says Shemen by the minchas Nesachim, and it says Shemen by the minchas nedava. And therefore, I'm not sure, should I learn it from here, should I learn it from there? And, the initial part of the brisa was stuck until we had Rabbi Shmuel ben Oisha, Rabbi Yechim and Rabbi Shimon, and they both came up with their respective hachras. But the Gemara is asking as a kasha that if you started off that Bashemin is coming to be Moisef, so how could there be two tzadim to learn it from the Minchas Nesachim or to learn it from the Minchas Nedav? Now the words of the Gemara themselves are very cryptic. It's not so clear what the Gemara's kasha is, right? What's the Gemara's kasha? But if you take a look at Rashi, Rashi says the Gemara's kasha was as follows: that if the word Bashemin is coming to be Moisef Shemin, in addition to the regular Minchas Machvas, well, if that's the case, reading Rashi inside, Vehechi Matzi Lamifrich V'Shemin din Nedava Lav Lahoisefo. So how could the Gemara ask that maybe learn it from the Shemin of Nedava? The Shemin of Nedava is not coming to be Moisef. Ela L'Kvaya Lo Shemin. V'Hai B'Shemin Lahoisefu, the L'Kvaya Lo Yitzarek L'Mefarsh L'Kaman. If Bashemin is coming to be Moisef, then by definition you would think that we have to learn it from a parsha that has a Tosefes of Shemin. The Minchas Nedava is not a Tosefes of Shemin. Minchas Nedava has your regular share of loig of Shemin. That's what every mincha has. It's tafka the minchas nesachim that has 3 loigin of shemen. That's a tosefes. So if Hashemin is coming to be moisef, and that we know as a given, for sure we're coming to be moisef, so then for sure you have to learn it from a parsha that's being moisef. Right? Just to bring it out a little bit better. When Reb Shimon had 2 tzadim, I can learn it from here, I can learn it from there. It was learning it from parshias of Menachos that bring more than a loig of shemen. Either from the kvasim that's 3 loigin, or from the par and the ayil, which is 2 loig. But the way the brisa started was that maybe learn it from the Minchas Nedava. Minchas Nedava is a regular din shemen, it's only 1 loig. If Bashemin is telling me by definition that there has to be a riboy, then there's no tzad in the world that I should be able to learn it from the Minchas Nedava. And it's because of this kasha that how could the brisa start off that Bashemin is coming to be moisef and then tell me maybe learn it from the Minchas Nedava, which doesn't have any toisefes of shemen. If I know there has to be toisefes, then I have to learn from a parsha that has a toisefes that the 3 mahalchim and how to understand the brisa are going to emerge. So here's the first malach. Amar Abaye Maya said, Man Tana Bashemin. Who's the one that said Bashemin is coming to be moisef, lahoisef? Reb Shimon. It's Reb Shimon, who's mentioned last in the brisa. Ubedina Man Mahader, and who's the one that throughout them maybe learned from the Minchas Nedava? Rabbi Yishmael. It's really Rabbi Yishmael. In other words, Abaye said you have to do an epic edit to the brisa. This is where you read the brisa. The brisa starts off Bashemen Lahoisef Lashem. And you know who's talking? Reb Shimon's talking, and Reb Shimon is now continuing. He says, "Ve'ini idea kam." I don't know how much. Nemrakan shemen. It says shemen over here by the Minchas Chavitim. And never lahalim Minchas Nesachim shemen. And it says the word shemen by the Minchas Nesachim. Mat lahalim shleisha sugan lisarin. Afkan shleisha sugan lisarin. Right? I know it has to be more. Now Reb Shimon was about to continue. Listen to this pshah. He was about to continue. And how was he going to continue? The way he continued at the very end of the brisa. How did he continue the end of the brisa? Maybe learn the riboy not from the Minchas Nesachim of Kvasim, but maybe learn it from the Minchas Nesachim of Parim Ve'el. So maybe it's not going to be Shloishas looking for the Yisarin, maybe it's only going to be Shnei looking for the Yisarin. But before Reb Shimon had a chance to continue, you know what happened? All of a sudden Rabbi Yishmael, B'nai Shal Yechim and Breika interrupted Reb Shimon. And he's the next words. He tells Reb Shimon, I'm not so sure you're right that the word Bashemin is coming to be Moisef. Maybe it's not coming to be Moisef. Maybe Bashem is just coming to teach me Shemen. And if that's the case, I could argue Nemar kan Shemen, v'nemar b'minchas Nedava Shemen. And ma lahalon loy ge'echad, avkan loy ge'echad. So it's Rabbi Shmuel ben Oishel who just interrupted Rabbi Shimon, who threw out the other side. Rabbi Shimon, who started off by Shem's Loisav Lashem, would never entertain the tzad, maybe learn it from the Minchas Adava, because there's no Teisaf Hashem over there. Rabbi Shimon himself's other tzad is going to be what he's going to say at the end of the Brisa. But Rabbi Shmuel ben Oishel, he's the one that interrupted, because he taka heard two tzadim, and that's why he was the one who threw around near Lamidaima, done in Tavshat mi Tavshat, or done in Yagel mi Yagel, until he finally said, it said Soilas Mincha Tamid, and it's Keminchas Tamidim, just like Keminchas Tamidim, Shloishes Lugan, so to this Givri Shloishes Lugan as well. But Enechinami, the one that knows for a fact that Hashem is Lahisaf Lashem can never entertain the tzad to maybe learn from the Minchas Nadava, it's Reb Shimon at the end of the Brisa, who's the one talking in the beginning of the Brisa, and even though it doesn't sound like it, that's the way it is. Rabbi Shmuel ben Oishel Breika interrupts Reb Shimon, and he is the one that throws at the tzad, maybe learning from the Minchas Nadava, because Enechinami Taki doesn't hold up Hashem's dafka coming to be Moshe of Shemin. And really, the way the Brisa reads, it's two shittas, Reb Shimon and Rabbi Shmuel ben Oishel Yoichem Broika. Reb Shimon starts talking, gets interrupted by Rabbi Shmuel ben Oishel Yoichem Broika, and then he goes back and he resumes talking after Rabbi Shmuel ben Oishel Yoichem Broika finishes interrupting him, and he gives him a chance to go ahead and go weiter. But either way, this was Abaya's way of getting at his question. But again, according to Abaya and Chinabi, the one that's asking this kasha, or the one that's making this hanocha that Bashem is coming to be Moshe of Shemen, never had a tzad to learn from the Minchas Nadab. Rav Huna Breid Rav Yeshua Amar. Rav Huna Breid Rav Yeshua had a different derech. He said, "Kula Rabbi Shmuel ben Oishel Beichem Broikehi." Really, the entire beginning of the Brisa is Rabbi Shmuel ben Oishel Beichem Broikehi. It's not Rav Shimon who's being interrupted. It's all Rabbi Shmuel ben Oishel Beichem Broikehi. Achi Kamar, and this is the way you read the Brisa. Bashemen lahisav la Shemen. Rabbi Shmuel ben Oishel Beichem started the Brisa by saying that the word Bashemen is coming to be Moshe of Shemen. And the reason he felt that way is because the Ilik Vaya Shemen, it's coming to teach me Shemen, Loit Tzarech, Kivin Dechsiv Baal Machvas, Kivin Minchas Machvas, Dam, it's like a Minchas Machvas. And every Minchas Machvas requires a lug of Shemen. This is also going to require a lug of Shemen. Now, if that's the case, there should be no Havamina to be able to learn Bashemet from the Minchas Nadava. Stating that, Rabbi Shmuel ben Oishel Broika, it said that as much as I just said that Bashemen is coming to teach me a riboy of Shemen, I'm not as confident and secure about it as I made believe I was. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the word Bashem is coming to teach me that you need Shemen. You'll tell me it's a minchas machvas anyways. Yeah, but there is a concept of a mincha that doesn't have Shemen. Because maybe at the Torah not said Bashemen, I would have thought it should be like a minchas chayte, and a minchas chayte doesn't have Shemen, so maybe this doesn't either have Shemen. So then Rabbi Shmuel ben Oishel said, that even if you're going to tell me, meaning even if that the word Bashemen is coming to teach me that you need Shemen, but it could be still you'll need more than the regular like Shemen, because Teisim Midina. Maybe you should learn Midin, you should learn from the Minchas Nesachin that the amount of Shemen you should need is Shloishes Lugan. V'dondina. So he tried learning from there. He didn't have a makar. And the reason was because as much as you can learn Bashem and Shemen from the Minchas Nesachin, based on Tafshit mi Tafshit, but you could also learn Yagel Yagel from the Minchas Adava. Therefore, Vatzchakra ultimately needed a pasuk Seilos Mincha Tamid, Kidmasayim Rabbi Shmuel Milsa, like he himself ended up concluding. But the bottom line is, according to Rav Huna Breid Rav Yeshua, it's not that we're starting off with Rabbi Shimon talking, Rabbi Shmuel interrupts him, and then Rabbi Shimon goes ahead and concludes. It's Rabbi Shmuel first and Rabbi Shimon second. Again, it's not three shittas, it's two. It's first Rabbi Shmuel, and then it's Rabbi Shimon. And the way it reads is that Rabbi Shmuel starts off saying confidently, Bashemen is coming lahaisif, but then he says, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Bashemen is not coming to teach me a riboy of Shemen, it's coming to teach me a need Shemen. Isn't it obvious you need Shemen? Yeah, the Torah calls it Minchas Machvas, but there are Minchas that don't have Shemen, like the Minchas Chayte. So maybe the Minchas Chavitim is a Minchas Chayte. And it's not Minchas Chayte, but maybe it's like a Minchas Chayte. Maybe there's a chiddush that the Torah needs to speak out that you need Shemen. The bottom line is, he said, okay, but even if there's a chiddush in needing Shemen, but still maybe Shemen's going to be 3 lugin, not because the word Bashemen is coming to teach me a riboy of Shemen, but based on Don and Shemen, Mishemen, But he said that just like you dan shemen mishemen from the minchas nesachim, maybe you can be dan shemen mishemen from the minchas adav. At the end of the day, he was stuck. He had no achra, and that's why he had to come on to his pasuk of soilus minchatam. But again, how is Rav Huna ben Yeshua answering the kasha? If the price starts off, the Bashemen is teaching me a riboy of shemen, how can you learn from the minchas adav? Because when the Gemara entertains the tzad to learn it from the minchas adav, it's taka backing off. It's being chayzer. It's saying, something. As much as I thought for sure we should learn it from the minchas nesachin, I realized that maybe I misspoke. Maybe the word Bashemen was needed to teach me the ikar halacha of shemen. Either way, third mahalach and final mahalach. Rabba says Kula Reb Shimon. So Rabba's the third shot. He says the whole brayso is going according to Reb Shimon. So similar to Abaya, that Reb Shimon is the one that starts talking in this brayso. Rabba says Reb Shimon is the one that starts talking. The ilu loy nemar kamar. And when the brayso says Oy klach l'derech zu, what it means is beloshen ilu loy nema. What does that mean? He explains. V'hachi kamar. Bashem elohisav l'Hashem. His muschel rishon was that the word Bashem is coming to be Moisei Shem. Why? Iluk bay l'Hashem. Because if it's coming to be kavei Hashem, loitzarech. I wouldn't need a pasuk for that. Given the chesiv ba al machvas ke machvas damya. Because being that it says the word al machvas, so the word al machvas is mashma that it's like a minchas machvas, and every minchas machvas requires shemen. So I would think this requires shemen as well. V'ad shelo yoymar bashemen. Yeshli bedin, but then Reb Shimon continued, and he said that maybe even had it not said the word Bashemen, I would still have known that it requires 3 lugin. You know why? Because maybe learn it, push it from the Minchas Nesachin. And just like the Minchas Nesachin requires 3 lugin, maybe this also requires 3 lugin. V'dandina, so he tried learning it straight up from the Minchas Nesachin, v'layasya, and he couldn't make it work. And the reason is because maybe he learned it yagol. Va'atzracha bashemen, and that's why he needed bashemen. That's why he needed bashemen to go ahead to teach me that you need the riboy of shemen. But just because it's a riboy of shemen, I still don't know how much of a riboy. It's hadar amar. That's why Reb Shimon said at the end of the brayso that even if I know bashemen there's a riboy, but I don't know how much. Tavi kiminchas parim ve'elim. Maybe it should be like the minchas parim ve'elim. That requires 2 lugin per yisarin, not 3. Hadar amar. That's why he said dana mincha haba yisarin v'chulu. The bottom line is, according to Rabbah, the entire brayso is going according to Reb Shimon. Reb Shimon starts off with the hanacha. Rav Shimon starts off with the hanacha that Bashemen is coming to teach me a riboy of Shemen. And once you know Bashemen is coming to teach me a riboy of Shemen, there's no tzad anymore to learn out from the Minchas Nadav. So what does it mean like klach l'derech zu? Al klach l'derech zu, in the words of Rabbi, ilu loy nema kamar. Because Rav Shimon started entertaining a tzad that maybe had it even not said, the word Bashemen, I still would have chapped that it's 3 lugin. And the reason I would have chapped that it's 3 lugin is because I would have assumed that it makes sense to compare it to the Minchas Nesachin. But he said, that's not true, because maybe I should compare it instead to the Minchas Nadava. So again, the kasha is that once I know Bashemen is coming to teach me a riboy of Shemen, what's the tzad Minchas Nadava? The answer is, there is no tzad. But the only reason Reb Shimon's entertaining such a possibility is based on the fact that it's an ilu loy nemar. He's coming to say that ilu loy nemar, had I not known the word Bashemen, maybe I could have learned it anyways. And the answer is no, because had I not known Bashemen is coming to be Mar Bashemen, I could have learned it from the Minchas Adava. But Enechinami, once I know Bashemen is coming to teach me to be Mar Bashemen, there is no tzad to learn it from the Minchas Adava. Either way, Reb Shimon is the beginning of the brayso. Reb Shimon is the end of the brayso. What's the shayla end of the brayso? I know there's a riboy of Shem, but I don't know how much. One thing that comes out according to Rabbah, just like according to Abaye, Rabbi Shmuel is interrupting. The difference is that in Abaye, Rabbi Shmuel interrupted. Reb Shimon was like mid-sentence. He started, and Rabbi Shmuel interrupted and gave the oiklach l'derech zu. According to Rabbah, Rabbi Shmuel is not the one that gave the oiklach l'derech zu, but rather Rabbi Shmuel is the one that after Reb Shimon set up his tun stadim, the ilu loy nemar, he came and he intervened, and then ultimately the brayso concluded with Reb Shimon. So the bottom line is we have a shvera brayso with 3 mahalchim, and Ameiram had explained it. I think it's kedai to do a recap on the 3 drachim of this brayso. So again, the brayso started off, it says regarding the minchas chaviten, it says al machvas bashemen teyasa. And the brayso starts off with this hanacha that once I know it's a minchas machvas, I know it involves shemen. Why do you need to tell me B'Hashem and Teyasa, it must be it's coming to be Mar B'Shemen. And then the Brisa went on, and the Brisa started being very Meir. So let's read the Brisa according to Abaya, according to Rav Huna Breid, Rav Yeshua, and according to Rabbah. The way Abaya learned the Brisa is Reb Shimon, who will be introduced to more formally in the end of the Brisa, is the one that starts talking. He says, "B'Hashem Elohis of Lo Shemen." I don't know how much. I really don't. Never can Shemen, never land b'chasach Shemen. Ma lahalon shleishas lugin lisarin, afkan shleishas lugin lisarin. So Rav Shimon said, "I'm thinking, I don't know how much. I know there's a riboy. Maybe it's 3 lugin to the isarin, like the carbon tamid, which was a keves and b'chasach, and that's how much it was." Before he even had a chance to continue saying what he was about to say. And what was he about to say? We know from the end of the Brisa what he was about to say. He was going to say, maybe learn it from the Minchas Nesachim of the Parim Ve'elim, which is 2 Yisroinos it's 2 lugim for the Yisrael. But before he had a chance to say that, Rabbi Shmuel jumped in and he said that Shemen is coming to teach me a riboy of Shemen. And Rabbi Shmuel said, I don't know, I think maybe it's only a lie. Maybe Shemen is not coming to teach me more Shemen. Maybe it's actually coming to tell me that there's a din Shemen. And he was the one that said, Nir mi daima, done in tavshat mi tavshat, or we done yogel mi yogel. And because of that, Rabbi Shmuel b'nei Shabbeichem and Breika finally said, Soilas mincha tamid, arei lacha minchas tmidim. Ma minchas tmidim shleishes lugin lisarin. Either way, Rabbi Shmuel finished talking, and then Rabbi Shimon went ahead and he feared his shita, and that is, he holds for sure Hashem is coming to be Moshe Shemen. There's 2 stadim, I can learn it from the keves, or I can learn it from the par and the ayil. He said it makes more sense to learn from the keves, because the keves, like the Minchas Chavitim, is 1 isarin, as opposed to the par and the ayil, which have multiple israinis. So, according to Abaya, right, just to point out an obvious anomaly, it comes out that Reb Shimon is talking in the beginning of the Brisa, even though Reb Shimon is first mentioned at the end of the Brisa, and even Rabbi Shmuel b'nei Shabbeichem and Breika is talking in the beginning of the Brisa, even though he's first mentioned later in the Brisa. So Reb Shimon and Rabbi Shmuel b'nei Shabbeichem and Breika, who are mefurish mentioned later in the Brisa, they both somehow talk here towards the beginning of the Brisa, which is rather interesting. But either way, this is the first mahalach how you learn the Brisa, Shitas Abaya. The second one was Rav Huna Bereider Rav Yeshua. According to Rav Huna Bereider Rav Yeshua, the Brisa starts with Rabbi Shmuel b'nei Shabbeichem and Breika. He starts off saying, B'Hashem is lahis of Shemen. I learned it from the Minchas Nesachim. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe B'Hashem is not coming to be Moshe Shemen. Maybe B'Hashem is coming to tell me that you need Shemen. Why would you think you don't need Shemen? Maybe it's like the Minchas Chayte. Nira l'mi daima. He struck out. So he said, it says, Soilas mincha tamid, it's like the minchas tmidim. Minchas tmidim is shloishes lugin. This is also going to be shloishes lugin. That's the first shita. Reb Shimon said, for sure, B'Hashem is coming to be Moshe Shemen. He doesn't hear those 2 tzadim. That maybe it's not. No, and the only 2 tzadim would be, do I pair it to the keves, that type of minchas azavchem, or the parim ve'elim? And he said, it's more daimit to the keves, because it's 1 isarin, and that's how he came out. And finally, Rabba said the first part of the brisa was all Reb Shimon. Reb Shimon starts off, and Reb Shimon says, B'Hashem is coming to be Moshe Shemen. And really, based on that, you could just fast forward to the end of Reb Shimon. 2 tzadim. Is it going to be like the keves, or is it going to be like the par and the ayil? Stating that, Reb Shimon started just thinking out loud. He would say, what would be had it not said Shemen? Maybe I still would have chapped a riboy, but he said, no, I wouldn't have chapped a riboy. The reason I wouldn't have chapped a riboy is because maybe learning from the Minchas Adava. That's why I needed the word B'Hashem to go ahead and tell me. Now, even according to Rabbi Shmuel b'nei Shabbeichem and Breika somehow interjected. He interjected his pshat before Rabbi Shimon got a chance to finish. So again, Rabbi Shmuel b'nei Shabbeichem and Breika is interrupting Rabbi Shimon according to Rabbi, just like he's interrupting according to Abaya, albeit a little less dramatically. But the bottom line is, according to Abaya, the way the Brisa reads, it's Rabbi Shimon, then Rabbi Shmuel b'nei Shabbeichem and Breika, and then Rabbi Shimon again. According to Rav Huna Bereider Rav Yeshua, it's Rabbi Shmuel b'nei Shabbeichem and Breika, and then Rabbi Shimon. And according to Rabba, it's Rabbi Shimon, it's Rabbi Shmuel b'nei Shabbeichem and Breika, and then Rabbi Shimon al derech shel Abaya. Either way, we have another Amid Gemara to learn, but for today we are going to stop here.